Hello, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in to our August stream. Really appreciate your being here, whether you happen to be watching the stream live or once it's recorded. You are watching this either on the YouTube Outdoors on the Air channel, which is mine, or the Kilo 2 Charlie Juliet Bravo channel, which is Chris's. So I'm joined today by my co-hosts, Chris, Kilo 2 Charlie Juliet Bravo, Tim, November 9 Sierra Alpha Bravo, and we also have our special guest for this month. Really happy that Charlie, November Juliet 7 Victor, has agreed to be on the show. Charlie's a really great guy. I've had the opportunity to briefly meet him in person, but Charlie was kind enough to invite me to his live stream, and Charlie's got a live stream on his YouTube channel, Red Summit RF, that he's been doing for a few years. Lots of terrific content on there. If you're not familiar with Charlie's Red Summit RF channel, please go check it out. I've left a link in the description below for that. But let's just get things kicked off here and sort of go around the table and see what folks have been up to. Chris, over to you. Kilo 2, Charlie Juliet Bravo. What have you been up to, Chris?
Well, let's see. The most recent thing we did, the ham radio thing we did, was to me and the XYL actually went camping. So hanging out with Tracy is starting to rub off on me now. So we went out on a little camp. Yeah, it's not good. So we went on a camping trip, and I brought the radio with me, and we had a great time. I activated a park here in Connecticut. It was right on the south shore of Connecticut on Long Island Sound and on a beach. It was beautiful. A little breezy. We got rained on, but we got through it. We survived. So that was pretty cool. The first day, the 40 meters was just hopping. I banged out like 17 contacts in 15 minutes. I couldn't believe it. The next day, a little harder. It was more like a typical POTA activation, but either way, both days I activated the park both days, so it was fun to do. So that was pretty cool. But what I want to do tonight is I'm going to embarrass my friend Tracy. The most recent
Don't do it.
USD, right? Everybody got this, right? On page 62, you're going to see an article here about this little stand. Right, for fiberglass masts. I use them all the time because this guy who wrote this article got his idea from where? Outdoors on the Air.
All right.
Tracy, so we are now amidst royalty because he's in print.
Oh, geez, Louise. I'll just wait for the guards to arrive with all the money that goes with being royalty.
That's all we've been up to. That's our from this side.
Chris, I want to thank you for bringing that to my attention, because I wouldn't have known about it otherwise. I'm a member of Radio Amateurs of Canada, so I get their monthly magazine as opposed to the American Radio Relay League. So thanks very much. It's really nice when somebody gives credit for something like that. But that's the kind of fraternity we're in. People usually give credit where credit is due. And by the way, that whole idea with the PVC pipe wasn't even mine originally. I got that from Ron at the High End Company in Holland. It's just such a brilliant thing. And the number of users, hams that I have heard back from after I did my videos, I've done a couple of videos on it, that it's helped and they're using successfully in the field. That's just really rewarding, because it's just helping folks get out there and in tough environments where you can't necessarily put up an antenna easily because there's no trees, or you're not allowed to put wires in trees, that sort of thing. So thanks for bringing that up.
With that, because I just used it out at this camp thing we did. I'm going to modify it. I'm going to actually add I'm thinking about drilling a hole, put like a 10-penny hot glue and a 10-penny nail in the bottom. So there's a bit of a spike to get into the ground for the actual PVC. Because I found where I was the other day, I had the little guy ropes out to hold it, but it was breezy. It was really breezy. And I had the round cap on the bottom, and it slid and actually fell. So I'm thinking,
why would you cut it like a? Would you cut it like a 30
I wanted it closed because that way you just drop the mast in it and it sits at the bottom. So there's a cap, the PVC cap on the bottom. So I was just thinking I'll just drill a hole, put a hot glue a nail in it, and then I've got a little spike I can put in the ground, and that'll hold it up.
So can I make a suggestion here, Chris?
Sure.
Watching your video, you had and it was which mast was that specifically?
It's the new one. It's that new one I got. It's a lighter weight mast.
Is there a brand name on that one that we can reference?
It's a fishing pole. Goture, Goture.
Okay. All right. And the reason I'm bringing this up, believe me, I had plenty of activations with telescopic poles, and it took me a number of times before I really started to figure things out. So as I was watching your video, I noticed that the pole goes up and then it comes back down, and because you've got, of course, you've got the wire tied off at the tip, and those poles are very thin at the top.
Right.
And what's happening there is the pole itself is being pulled away from its base. And that's why you get the slipping out. If you can tie off the antenna lower down the mast, you don't get that much bend. And as a result, and you don't lose any height. Because if you think about that pole bending at the top, you're losing height. You're probably losing, 4 or 5 feet that way. So if you just bring the feed point of the antenna down 4 or 5 feet, you don't get that kind of bending. You don't get that stress on the base. So I use my 50-foot DX wire. Now it's a different product, but because I've got, I've got the antenna fastened partway down the mast. There's no directional pull on the mast, and therefore I have never used the spike at the base to keep the thing upright.
Right. Yeah, I could do that too. I mean, this is a new pole to me. The last one finally fell apart, so I got rid of it. So this one's new. In fact, that was the first time I used it, and I just have that little piece of plywood. It's got 2 holes I drilled in it, and it slides down where it stops, and that's it. So I mean, I could go a little lower, make the hole bigger, have it slide down a little further. That would be fine. And I usually, when I do it, I pull the tent pegs back to bring the antenna a little straighter up when I set it up.
Yep.
And the other day, actually out there, I believe it or not, I did have it pulled back a little bit. But I found also the weight of the RG8X was really a problem. You saw I taped it off to because before I did that, it really curved over. So, but
yeah, you know what?
Nature has provided lots of good masts. They have leaves and branches.
But where I was in a field. There was nothing nearby.
No trees in Connecticut.
Nope.
Well, not at the campsite. I saw the campsite, and I'm thinking, wow, Chris, I complain about privacy at Ontario parks, but at least there's bushes between us.
Yeah. There was
here you had nothing.
Nothing. Nope. Yeah, I don't know if you saw at the end of the video, there was a lady dragging an air mattress across the field.
Yes, I saw that. But listen, just to get back to your mast for a minute, credit where credit is due. You're absolutely right. This is about getting out there, trying stuff, experimenting, learning, tweaking stuff. We don't have to take things right as they are from the suggestion or from what other people are doing. We can modify these things and have fun and learn it and actually push the community knowledge forward by doing this stuff. So congratulations. Good job, Chris.
Yeah, it was fun. That little PVC thing, right? Going back to that was the whole point of it. That little PVC, whatever you want to call it, that holds the mast, is a fantastic idea for that reason. You're in the middle of a field. You're not near a tree. Like in my case, I could always lash it up to my truck if I have the truck with me. In the truck bed, I could do that. I've done that before. But in this case, it's like I didn't have the truck. I didn't want to lash it to that 10x10 pop-up canopy thing. That would have just fallen right over. I said, you know what? I'll bring the stand and I'll just set it up. So that's what I did. And it worked fine. So,
good stuff. And you had a successful activation. You were doing a run with QRP on the first day. You were literally banging them right on off.
Yeah. It was pretty cool.
Tim, what's up? What's been happening over your way?
I can't follow that. How do you expect me to follow that? You ever watch Family Guy? You seen Ollie the Weatherman?
Yep.
No, not on my viewing list. I'm afraid.
It's hot. It's gonna be hot. It's raining. Oh, jeez.
So we're having a great time here. Things are going well. I've done some redesigns and gotten some new things done. The linked half wave is done. The 100 watts OCFs are all going to the dual core design. We've got another 3D printer online, so we're experimenting with all kinds of exotic filaments and things like that. And it's hot, so I'm staying in the basement. I don't know about anybody else.
Can you explain the? Sure. You said 2-core OCFs.
Okay, so the old OCFs that I used to do were just a single core.
Mm-hmm.
You know the Wyndham that you have of mine?
Yep.
Well, I built a 100-watt version of that, right? And I sent it to Philip, and he's supposed to play with it.
KA4KOE.
Yeah, the non-standard ham, the electromagnetic mischief.
Mm-hmm.
He goes back and forth. So that's a single core. It has to be a single core because you want the vertical element to radiate, right? But on the little OCFs that I do, that's a twin core, that's a dual core, 2-toroid design. So I wanted to make the 100-watt versions of that also twin core. But the problem is you get 2 of the bigger toroids to support 100 watts, and it's like a lump, right? So you're holding this thing and it's like a pile of hard clay or something. So I've been trying to find a toroid that I can double up on and still get the power requirements that I want. So I've actually been able to shrink it down somewhat. So that's coming out. That'll be new.
Good.
That sounds awesome. Good job. Hey, listen, are you keeping up with the backlog?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay.
Kind of. My days are full.
Yeah, okay. Well, that business is good, right?
My days are full. My nights are full, too.
Somebody orders an
So when I was teasing Chris about being up till 3 a.m, making his antenna that he never used, I wasn't kidding, So people who are trying to contact me, I get a lot of emails from people overseas, and it'll be 8 a.m. in Kazakhstan or something like that, and I tend to respond rather quickly. They're like, "Oh, wow, you're up? Yeah, I'm up." But I sleep late, so
it's all my fault.
It's
all my fault.
Yeah, play with her
okay. All right, good stuff, Tim. Sounds like everything's okay in your part of the world. So now it's time to bring in Charlie, November Juliet 7 Victor. Hey, Charlie, what have you been up to over the past little bit? And I know you've published a couple of videos on Red Summit RF. Tell me, what's been going on?
Hey there, Tracy and Chris and Tim. Thank you guys so much for having me on your live stream. It was fun to get the invite. I'm really looking forward to having a chat with you, having a good time. It's been fun so far. So let's see. So I've done a lot of stuff the last couple of weeks with radio. Just this morning I got up about 4:15 and got on top of a summit for Summits on the Air. That was I always take my gear with me, my HF gear regardless, but that was just a VHF activation. Get up there, spend about a half hour, and then get back down and get home and go to work. So I did that. That was a little short video of that. And I'm also working on a kit. I'm building a ZZRX40, which isn't in production anymore. Just doing that live on Saturdays for about an hour. And I participate in CW Ops every Wednesday, trying to get my CW skills up a little bit. And tomorrow I'm going to be doing SOTA and POTA. It's kind of a combo. About 90% of the activations I do for Summits on the Air are also Parks on the Air. And so, I just get out there and do some SOTA tomorrow. And the other thing I've been doing is I've been practicing Morse code with my wife, Sandy. She's trying to learn. And so we have 2 little Morse Renos sitting at the kitchen table with paddles, and we're sending QSOs back and forth on the table. She's just getting to the point where she can hold a QSO pretty good. She knows all the characters. So we're hamming it up, man.
Does she know how to take out the garbage?
She doesn't need to do that. All she has to do is look at me. No, I'm just kidding. She's very nice.
Completely teasing there. That is so cool. My wife couldn't care less.
Yeah.
That's so funny. That's so funny. I've been doing this for so long. My wife does not give a 2 craps about any stuff. And
my wife was like that a long time, for many years, and then all of a sudden I think Well, I told her she couldn't do ham radio. That's when she kind of started to take exception with it.
So she and her sister got together, and her husband is a 3D printing dude too, right? So they were talking back and forth, and he was trying to explain to her about how he got his new printer, and oh, it's very cool. And he's like, well, what's Tim doing now? She goes, I don't know anything about that stuff.
There you go.
I wasn't care.
Yeah. So, but you know, I'm constantly putting out videos on my activations that I do. I focus on summits on the air and portable radio and QRP. Also focus on learning Morse code, and then I have guests on, like you mentioned. I interview about every other week. So the YouTube channel keeps me busy, and between that and playing radio, there's not much time to do any a lot of other activities.
Are you retired, Charlie?
No, not yet. I'm not yet. I'm getting close, though.
So you're doing all of this. You're holding down a full-time job, and you're keeping the lady happy. And it's like, full respect, my friend. Full respect.
I don't know. It's just we have time. We're empty nesters, So she has her hobbies, and we have our hobbies we do together.
But he climbs the summit, activates it, comes down, and goes to work.
Yeah, I mean, it was I got up at 4 and work starts at 7:30, so I made it home just in time.
That is tremendous. That's very impressive. So Charlie, if you don't mind, let's just take a little bit of a step back. And how did you get involved with ham radio? Tell us that.
Okay, well, so I'm originally from Wyoming, and so I grew up there, and then I went to college and came here to ASU here in Arizona for graduate school, and I met my wife here, and we got into backpacking and hiking, and we were really outdoorsy anyway. And then one day a friend of mine said, "Hey, you should try field day," because I was talking to him about my interest in being able to communicate in the case of an emergency. And so he invited me over. His name his call sign is AC7R, and he invited me over. His name is Gary. He invited me over to do field day just here in the park over here, and I was hooked on ham radio at that point. I'm like, I got to do this. So, I asked how to get involved, and he said you got to take the test. And so I did what a lot of people do. I got online and I just memorized the questions. You can do that here in the U.S. I don't know if you can do that in Canada, but did that. I got the technician, and then I was a technician for, probably 8 years. And then once I learned about SOTA, then I said, I can't just do VHF. I got to do some HF. So I went ahead and got my general and then my extra after that. So it was kind of field day and kind of being in the outdoors and that whole desire to be able to communicate in the case of an emergency that really got me interested in ham radio.
Fantastic. Now, what was your first rig?
Well, so let's see. So for, I guess my first rig, not a handheld. Is that what we're saying?
Sure. Yeah, I like that train of thought. Yes, please.
Yeah. So it would have been just the Yaesu FT 1800, which is a 2-meter radio that I fit in my car, and I did that for like 8 years. Just and I had a Toyota, just had it mounted in there with a big antenna on the hood. My first HF radio would be the let me see. It's going to be the It's going to be the Yaesu FT 897, and I still have it sitting right here. It doesn't have any filters in it or anything like that, so sometimes it's a little difficult to make contacts. But I got to upgrade it. I've been saving my money to get something new, but that thing still works like a workhorse, man. And I'm not going to get rid of it because it's going to go in as my POTA radio after I move it out of its main spot there and just keep it in a case and do a POTA with it.
Now, sorry, I want to talk to you about the 897 because I've got one too. Yeah. Incredible radio, and I know Gaston, who's watching here, Tech Prepper, he's got one as well. Now, do you operate CW or single sideband with it?
Both. I mean, mostly these days it's CW. Right now, I'm using it to do the CW Ops CWT on Wednesdays, that hour-long it's an hour-long kind of sprint contest where you send about 30 or 40 words a minute CW and make all this stuff. So I'm using that for that right now. But if I chase with it, so anybody who has sideband, I'll switch over and do sideband and chase with that POTA or SOTA. Yeah.
But you don't have any filters, so I guess you're using the DSP to adjust the filter, the DSP down so that you can eliminate some of the crosstalk.
Well, a little bit, but really I have trained my ear to just tune out everything. I'm the filter. My ears are, and I can handle a lot of interference and still pick out audio, both SSB and CW. So just because I've had the radio for so long and had to learn to use it, I've become accustomed to being able to filter it out with my ear.
So, and as an 897 owner who does not do CW, do you can the DSP be of help? I know there's bandwidth controls in there, but I've never actually used them on CW. And so, from what you're telling me, it's not really something that you can utilize for that.
Honestly, I'm just gonna say I don't know because I've not really explored it, and that's a sad thing. I mean, I just kind of go, and I haven't even really. I fiddled with it a little bit a while ago, and it seemed to help a little. But then I'm like, every time I came back, I had to readjust it or recalibrate it or whatever. Just try to. I always had to adjust it every time, and so I'm like, I don't even want to do that. I'll just deal with it, and so I don't even try.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So it's clearly not a SOTA rig, but you use it for parks on the air.
Well, I have used it for SOTA because whenever I really like to go do the drive-up summits and go QRO with.
Oh, okay. And
so whenever I do I do a drive-up summit, I'll go ahead and take that along. And in fact, tomorrow I'm doing 2 drive-ups, and so I'll be taking along the this FT897, go 100 watts. It makes it. I like getting the pile-ups and getting more contacts, and people like chasing me, so I make it a little easier for them to do so. Yeah.
Okay. Now, so do you operate from inside your vehicle when you get to the summit?
No, because you're not allowed to on SOTA.
Okay.
So if I'm just doing exclusively a POTA activation, I would like to, but I don't even have a HF radio in my truck. I just have VHF, UHF.
So what about a battery? Because if you're going to be operating 100 watts, you probably need some kind of beefy battery. And along with that is how long would you operate for on that activation? So I'm trying to figure out battery sizing and time.
Yeah, I have a 40 amp hour battery, a LifePo. It's the BioEno 40 amp hour. It's just sitting right over here. And that will carry me through 100 watts. It'll take. I don't think it depletes in less than 24 hours. So
really?
It's plenty of time. I've taken it on to field day before, and it's been fine with a 40 amp hour battery. But I'm not transmitting like the whole 24 hours. But I definitely don't deplete. I only deplete probably about half of it when I go out and do an activation 100 watts. And I'll do when I'm doing 100 watts and doing a SOTA activation, I try to stay on for 2 to 3 hours on each summit. If it's exclusively POTA, then I get a longer pileup, and I could be there for hours and hours. I remember I went to a Parks on the Air once out here in central Arizona, and I was calling secure. I was only able to work one band, and it took me 4 hours to make the pileup stop.
Wow!
I literally had like 200 or 300 contacts. It was crazy. So
now, sorry, I might have missed it, but that's on a summit.
That was not on a summit. That was just Parks on the Air. So I had this strategy. So Parks on the Air is a lot more It's more popular these days, and there are a lot more people that participate. And so, if I'm going and doing a Parks on the Air activation, I'll usually get a lot more contacts because I don't put the alert out when I'm doing Parks on the Air. If I'm doing the dual, if I'm doing a SOTA and POTA, like it's a peak that's in a park, I'll just do SOTA, because what ends up happening is if I alert in both places, the SOTA people, a lot of them are QRP and they're doing summit to summit, and the parks people will sometimes interfere with that. And then in addition to that, I get such a pile up when I post on the parks website their alert page that I and it posts to the spots there on the Parks website that I can't get from band to band in a reasonable amount of time, because I usually want to do more than one park. And it doesn't stop. It doesn't seem like. So I that's just my strategy. It's the way I do it.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're doing something right. So what about an antenna? What kind of antenna system are you running to get that kind of response?
Well, it's funny. I don't spend a lot of money on my gear, I don't think. The antennas, and I'm willing to take to do a little extra work, and it doesn't really bother me. I don't use a tuner on the 897. I have a big one here at home that I use, but when I take it out in the field, I just do a monoband dipole. And so I have in a bag behind me an antenna bag, and they're all double bazookas, because I really like the wide bandwidth, and also they're really quiet. And so I just got a mast, and I'll just hoist it up, a double bazooka, single monoband, and I have a 20, I have a 40, a 60, a 17, and a 10, and I even think a 15. So they're all sitting in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the double bazooka, because I've been talking to my buddy Tim about bazookas for a while, and I don't think he's buying into the concept.
Oh, but seriously, man, they're great. They are really good. They're really good.
Here we go.
That's what I've heard.
We couldn't get through a stream without the 897 and the damn double bazooka, could we?
Here we go. That's your seatbelts, folks.
That's why he invited me, just so that he can prove his point to you, Tim. Yeah.
Tim, you want to talk some antennas with Charlie?
Well, he uses a monoband dipole. That you can't beat that. Really,
you can't beat that. That's right.
If you want to go out there and do so, I mean, that's what I started with. I mean, I bought every kind of crazy antenna, right, except for a bazooka, and I tried them all, and the most success I ever had was just a good old straight up dipole.
Yes,
that's been my experience too. Tim.
I did more low power QSOs with that thing than anything else.
Yep.
Of course,
way back in the olden days when I got into ham radio, I had a started with HW16 that got the Tempo 1, and all I had in the backyard was a 10, a 15, a 20, and a 40 meter dipole with an antenna switch on my desk. That was it. It worked great.
Yeah.
And I didn't even have to get them up that high. I mean, the low dipole, 40 meters, 25 feet.
Yep.
That's right.
I don't even get it up that high. I think mine's 17 is how high I get them up. So, and they're fine. Yeah, they work great.
Yep.
In fact, that's what I have on my. So that's what I do in the field. As I use the double bazooka the monoband, and I hoist it up and then bring it down, and I have like a little pulley system with an army mast. Here at the house, I have a 4080 band dipole sitting right out on the roof, over the top of the roof. That's all I have with a tuner. So I tune on every band with that, and it seems to work fine, including 60.
That works.
Yeah, 60 is a challenge. I did a prototype 60 meter OCF and gave it to Julian, OH8 SDN, and he really liked it. I was thinking about actually commercializing that at some point, but that was a tricky one, because there's no way I could. I'm in the city, so I don't really have 40 meters is about as good as I can get here as far as putting things up and really testing them. But he was able to trim it and tune everything in.
Yeah. 60 meters, we really like it here in Arizona, and also they like it in Georgia and North and South Carolina for summits on the air.
Yeah.
Right now, the band conditions are where it's not as effective as it is, but at the bottom of the sun cycle, we get better. Usually, we can make better contacts close in with our buddies on 60 than we can on 40, and so we really like the 60 meter. Right now, I'm not using it a lot, but once the solar cycle starts dipping again, I'll be using it a lot more.
Okay.
So I've got three up here. I've got an 80 meter OCF that I got up about 40 feet. Then I've got an NFED sloper for 40 meters, and then I've got another. I'm using the random wire NFED in the back, and that tunes 80 as well too. So I've got everything pretty much covered.
Yeah, good.
Now, we've talked about Charlie. We've talked about in this stream a lot is when you're in the field, we always try to avoid using a tuner, especially if you're QRP. So it's all about the antenna, and in going with dipoles that are resonant.
Yeah, that's the whole idea, right?
That's right.
You want to be as efficient as possible, not have any losses if you can help it, and I mean that's the way to do it. Of course, it's fun to experiment, like you were talking about with your mast and everything like that. I really like to experiment. I have tried all kinds of different antennas. Like Tim said, the dipole, it seems to be the best, but depending on your circumstances and what you're trying to accomplish, it may not be the one you want to use, because if you really want to go DX and then just want to focus exclusively on that, maybe a vertical might be a better option, especially if you're in a park and not on a summit, because you need that long takeoff angle to be a little better. On a summit, you're not so worried about it, but if you're in a park, sometimes a vertical is better for DX than some of those monobands.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, you don't drag a vertical up to a summit, do you?
I haven't. I had a friend who did, and it turned out that it wasn't very effective for him. And I know people do it. There's the buddy poles and all that, buddy sticks and all that. They take those big heavy things up there. I wouldn't do it, but especially on a summit. But I know it's been done. I just when I'm doing summits on the air and I'm hiking, I'll just take a homebrew linked dipole, and I usually use it's probably 28 gauge wire. It's a really thin wire, and that's all I take. No tuner, but I have used tuners. I mean,
I don't have a problem with it. I'm not a purist like that, and I tried it with the verticals too. I had the super antenna, the super antenna MP2, I think it is. Yeah. But I just hate radials all over the place.
Yes, that's the problem with the vertical.
Yeah, I'll pack a tuner, but radials drive me nuts.
Yep, for sure. I have a tuner or two, but I don't use them that much. I found that they're not as effective, but they're fun to use sometimes. And like I said, depending on your circumstance. Here in Arizona, you have, especially in the desert area here where I live, not when you go up north to northern Arizona, but down here in the Phoenix area, all the summits are just rock. There's nothing to tie down to. There's no trees. It's just rock. And sometimes you're on top of a rock pile and there's no place to really put a dipole. It doesn't fit. You need an end-fed half wave because of the way the circumstances are. And so sometimes that's a better fit. So they're almost as good, if not as good as a dipole, the end-fed half wave. By the time you figure in there's not as long of a coax cable and stuff like that, the loss through the coax cable, sometimes it's about an even match.
Huh.
Sorry, if I can butt in for a sec here, guys. Charlie, take a look at the comment from Scout75 here. And I can't think of a better guy to address this than yourself. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, he says POTA is way more popular with chasers than SOTA. My theory is twofold. One, most SOTA are QRP, and two, POTA hunters don't have to turn in a log, so it's easier for them. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, it's true.
It definitely is popular. Yes, number one, POTA is more popular than SOTA, and it wasn't always that way, obviously, but it has become that way, and it's definitely probably because of there's the rules, the way the rules are set up. It's a little bit easier to participate in some ways. I'm not saying it's easier to get it's not saying one's easier than the other. But I just think that it's just more appealing to a lot of people to do the POTA. And then, it's chasing. You don't have to log it. So obviously, really, a lot of people go out there and they chase, and they just wait for the the activators to upload their log, and they're good. So that's a good theory. Yeah, I think it's right.
Well, SOTA chasing is difficult. Because look, I'm in Illinois, so there are no SOTAs. Okay, it's all
right. Yeah.
Go to the top of a grain elevator. That'd be about it.
Right.
Here, I can't, because I used to chase these guys or try to chase these guys, and sometimes like up in Wisconsin, there's a couple of small peaks or something somebody would do, and this is back, oh my God, this is maybe 2014, 2013-ish, right around that time. And you would go in and you would log into the site and you would become a member and you would do all this stuff, and you haven't even touched the radio yet, whereas the POTA thing, they're everywhere, and you can.
Yeah, I think that's. It's kind of in the same line as what Mike N2MAK is talking about. Kind of in the same vein. is what that comment is, where he says that number 3, I'd say that POTA is always on public land and SOTA has these activation zones sometimes on private property.
Sure.
That's true in some places. I'd expand that a little bit more and say that when you look at the United States and you look at the opportunity to chase POTA, you have stuff in your backyard.
Oh, yeah.
You have, no matter where you live in the United States, you have stuff in your backyard and you have stuff further away. But when it comes to SOTA, there are many places where you have no SOTA around, like you're talking about. And so that's a limitation, and it makes it, so that some people don't participate in activations, or sometimes you can't chase as well as you might want to. So yeah, that's another reason.
And chasing a SSB was, before I actually learned to, chasing a SSB was just, it was exercise of frustration a lot of time.
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool when you found one and when you got one, but yeah, CW would be the way to go, or digital.
Yep.
Well, speaking of CW, Charlie, you actually kind of surprised me when you said you were brushing up on your code, because you've done a lot of stuff on your channel relating to CW.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I've when it comes to this Morse code, I like to promote the art of Morse code to people. I feel like people should learn it if they're interested, and I like to promote it. But it isn't just to learn it and then stay at like 10, 15 words a minute. I mean, some people will do that. I actually felt like that's what I was going to do when I first learned it. I'm like, all I need to do is learn 15 words a minute. I'm done. But then once I got onto it and I really started enjoying it and saw the benefits of it, I felt like I needed to become more proficient with it. And as it turns out, I'm still learning and I'm still trying to become proficient with it. And I still have a long way to go. I, at this point, can copy around 30 words a minute.
Wow.
And but just because I've been participating in the CW ops stuff, but it took me years to get to that point. But so when I was doing summits on the air and at 18 words a minute, I was like, I don't even think I could ever do 30 words a minute. And those people are, way out of my thing. Now I'm at 30 words a minute, and I'm thinking the same thing about people that are operating at 40, 45 words a minute. And I'm like, gosh, I'd maybe like to get there at some point.
You had somebody on your channel one time who puts out videos on it was like training courses or something like that on CW.
Yes.
And who is that? I subscribed to his channel and it just escapes me off the top of my head.
I believe it's Kurt Zogelman. He's Morse Code Ninja.
That's it.
Yeah. He is really good at it and has provided a lot of material that's available to learn and to get your speed up. So, it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to do that. I understand.
Yeah, it's not for, I mean, I like the 10 to 15 words a minute, right there. And unlike you, I got there and was like, okay, yeah, that's enough. I'm fine. I like to use the Clint Eastwood quote, man's got to know his limitations.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, Tim. I was there. That's the way I felt for a long time. But, then I just started becoming interested. And like I said, I recognize not for everybody, but some people really like to continue to grow.
Sure.
Some people don't want to do it in CW. Maybe they want to do it in another area, learning. How about designing and selling antennas? Maybe that's what they like to do. And so they grow in that area. It's just wherever you like to grow. I'm happy that people are doing it.
I knew a guy that could copy like 45 in his head, right? But what was interesting is you could have a conversation with him while he was copying 45 in his head.
Oh.
I couldn't believe it.
That's something I cannot do. I have to concentrate.
Phil's like that too. Phil likes the K electromagnetic mischief. It was like, hey, I'm on, or I was doing an activation. I was like, all right, I'll hop on and I'll copy you, right? So I do my, do. He comes back and do. I was like, okay, forget it. He's like, haha.
Yeah, my friend actually is funny. I keep my speed at 20 words a minute when I'm doing summits on the air, because otherwise you lose most of your chasers. So I keep it at 20 words a minute. But my friend Brian, W7JET, he will always send at 40 words a minute. He uses a computer to do it, but he'll send it 40 words a minute just to toy with me.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I cheat. I cheat when I'm at home. I cheat. I have a computer. I do it.
Yeah.
I feed it all through there.
Yeah. Well, I use a computer too on sending. Sending at 30 words a minute is tough.
Yeah. What do you use?
what is it? N1MM is the software, and then I have this K1ELWK Mini keyer that I plug in and interfaces with the radio and the N1MM software.
See, I bought that software. It was the MRP 40 or whatever, the Norbert in Germany did, and I was always real happy with that. It seems to be simple and easy to use. So I recommend.
Yeah. Cool. I'll have to check that out.
Charlie,
Yeah,
we
cool.
have a question. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
With CW, I'm old school. I got my paddles here, and use the keyer in the radio. And when I copy, it's a piece of paper and a pen.
Yeah. That's a lot of people are that way, and that's nothing wrong with that. I don't think.
Yep.
Some purists may differ, but we don't care about purists. I think that I really, when it comes to CW, my philosophy is you learn it the way you can learn it, and you do it the way you can do it, and you don't care what anybody else says. There's people out there who say, "Oh, this is the way you got to do it. You learned it wrong." Blah 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 blah. I don't care. If you can do it and you can make it work, that's the way to do it.
If you're making contacts, it works.
Yeah.
Yep.
Charlie, here's a question from Gaston, the tech prepper.
All right. It says, what is your number one pro tip to get started with CW as a newbie? I've heard that people that are musically inclined fare better. I'm tone deaf. Yeah. Okay. So I'll answer the second part of that question first about the being tone deaf. I know that there are people who are tone deaf, and my wife is sort of that way, and she's got a hearing problem, but she's still able to do it. It just takes I think there's a little bit of a disadvantage when you're that way, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for you to learn. And I would say that the way that you learn is to just start with the letters, and I think most people have success with an app. You can go to CW Ops and take their classes. You can go to the Long Island CW and take their classes. I didn't do that. I just learned the letters one at a time with an app on my phone, and I just kept learning. I just kept going and going until I got to that point. And so I would say if you're going to start and you want to learn Morse code, just get an app and make sure you practice every day if you can, at least 10, 15 minutes every day. If you can't every day, then it might take a little longer for you to get there. But that's why my wife is she's on the cusp of being able to get on the air. And it's because she sits down at the kitchen table for 10, 15 minutes every night right when she comes home from work, and she just does a little bit of practice, and it's paid off.
You know, the first thing I learned my call sign, right? So when I could recognize my call sign and then broke it down into the individual letters, and then I would just shut everything off and then just listen and then start to pick things out. You know, and eventually you could tell, like you can tell CQ, CQDX. You know, call signs are hard because they're kind of random. But you know, like I can hear my call sign when I'm calling somebody or you know, and they call me back. I mean, I don't need the computer or anything for that. I can pick that out. That's no big deal. But it's not like I'm going to have a conversation, a long conversation with somebody. But you know, to do TX73, bye, that kind of thing. I mean, just doing it, I think is the best thing.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. In fact, go ahead, Chris. Yeah, go ahead.
I would say, going back to the music question, because I'm a musician, I played snare drum and a drum bugle corps for like 25 years. So I have found that drummers, percussionists actually probably pick up CW a little quicker because it's kind of rhythmic, right? So if you can, usually your fist as you're sending will be a little smoother, I think, in the beginning, not after a while. I mean, after a while, anybody can get really good at it, proficient at it. But in the beginning, I think just a drummer's head, you know, the way they think rhythmically kind of lends itself to CW from your fist side, like not so much your copy side, but definitely the sending side. So
you have to be a jazz drummer.
Yeah. It's good comment, Chris. I was going to add to, so the question was the number one tip, and that's I guess the first step, I would say, learn the letters. But then I would say after that, what Tim said is really true, and the path I took, and that is, I got on the air. I practiced a little bit of the QSO stuff, and then I just got on the air and was really, really awful and stumbled through it. But that's really where the current learning curve kind of goes like this when you're learning the letters, and then once you get on the air, it goes like this.
Hockey stick.
It is because, and like Tim said, you just pick out stuff, So once you learn those letters, then just get on the air. I think that's the next step. And so many people have a hard time with that and don't feel that they're ready. But that's why SOTA and POTA is such an incredibly
VEs used to
helpful.
throw me off all the time. VEs and KHs.
Yes.
Wait,
Well,
what?
everybody has their ones. Me, it's B's and ones and J's.
Hmm.
They're all, it's everybody's a little different in what they can or can't do, or what they can't copy. But get on the air, and we were just practicing yesterday, and she's like, I caught the parts that were important, but I didn't catch all that other stuff. And I'm like, that's the point. All you need when you start out getting on the air is to know the call sign and the signal report. And then as you continue to make those QSOs, you'll pick up on the other things that people are saying.
Right. You just got to get in and do it. It's not a spectator sport.
Guys, let's switch gears for just a minute here, and I'm going to use this comment from Gavin from Down Under to sort of segue us in a different direction. So Gavin's asking, is my SGC 2020, and that's the one in the photo behind me, a keeper? He just found one here in VK, like new, just pondering. I talked to Tim about double bazookas, and wife smacked me in the ear. But Gavin, to answer your question, I think it is a keeper. I need a little bit more time with it. I just had another operation with it up north. Terrible conditions, and it was a family trip, so I didn't really get as much time to play with it as I would have liked to. But, and by the way, Charlie, I don't know if you're familiar with the SGC 2020. It's a 20-watt radio. It was built around 20 years ago. Lots of 20s going on there.
It's retro cool, though. I love it.
Very cool, and almost built to a commercial standard, as you might be able to tell by looking at it. And pretty bare bones, but it's got some really interesting features. It's got a DSP noise reduction, which is unbelievable. It's got DSP bandwidth filtering, which works really well. It's good for both CW and SSB, but you can tell by the front panel, it's not really sophisticated. There's no waterfall in that puppy. But I was hoping to use this as a segue, because you are, I think, akin to us on the channel here, and some others we've had on the channel, like Peter VK3YE, big fans of the 817, 818. So I'm wondering, okay, tell us about why you might like that radio. And are you looking at, you talked about potentially upgrading the 897. Do you have your eye on something to replace the 817 going forward?
Yeah, okay, so I agree with you that the 818, 817 radio is a really good radio. It's what I first started with Summits on the Air. And yeah, I've been looking around for something to replace I have an 818ND, or sorry, 817ND. And the thing that I like, the things that I like about the 817, 818 are, well, let me just say this first. The only radio that that really comes close that I would consider buying as a replacement is the KX2. And it's because it's got almost all the same things available in it that is in the 818, 817. And that is, you can do sideband and Morse code and digital with the 817, 818. And you can also do, it has a good filter in it. You could do VHF and UHF, but not only VHF and UHF, but you can do VHF and UHF CW and sideband.
Yep.
And I enjoy those modes on those bands. And I don't know of any other radio. I don't know if the KX2 does that. I think the KX2 possibly can do that, but I don't know of any other radio really that has that broad. I mean, I've got 160 to 440. So 160 on one end to 160 meters all the way down to 23 centimeters. Or not 23. Yeah, 23 centimeters. And so, and then all band, all mode is pretty much you're looking at. And a lot of people are saying, well, I don't need that. Well, I didn't think I was ever going to need sideband once I learned Morse code. But then my wife came along, and we had a perfect radio. We can both be on the Summit at the same time. She can operate sideband until she learns the CW. I can do CW. Plus all these other bands and modes. I just really like it. It's not that, it's really compact, I think, for a radio of its scale and caliber. It has all those things in it, and it's just, you know, it's like that, and it's very durable, and it's getting long in the tooth, and I don't know what I'm going to do if it fails, because I don't have an option right now of a radio that I think that would match it yet. Do you have a suggestion? I mean, I don't know.
I know a guy who went and bought, like, they announced they were discontinuing it, and he went out and bought like 4 of them. So you might be able to get one from him.
Yeah, maybe. So,
you know, you mentioned the KX2, and I mean the number of Elecraft fanatics out there, and I don't mean that disparagingly, but there's a lot. All right, they love their radios. I've got a friend who's got a KX2. He just thinks the world of it. I'm sort of thinking about your use case. So you're throwing the rig in a backpack and you're hiking up the SOTA. And I look at those Elecrafts and I know they're just not quite as rugged. Is that a concern for you with that rig?
Yeah, it is actually. It's not a huge concern, and the reason it's not a huge concern is because you can just put it in a case of some sort and then put it in your bag. But yeah, I've used the KX2 before. On a couple of my friends have them, and they've let me use them. And I've always, once I have it out of the bag and I'm have it sitting down there, I always do feel like I have to be a little bit careful with it. I've dropped my 817 off of onto a rock several times, and it's fine. Yeah. It's fine. It
will be, yeah, for sure.
So the durability is a huge issue, or a huge advantage, I think, of the 817. It doesn't have a tuner, but I don't use a tuner, so.
You know, a lot of people been hearing a lot of feedback on that FX. Was the FX4 CR? Somebody put out.
Yes.
Somebody today, yeah. And half the radios on there. I think it was the QRP RC people who put out a Twitter poll saying, "Oh, you can looking at this, and it was a TW5B or something like that." I'm like, "What the hell is this?" The only one I'd heard of was the FX, or I think it was the Lab 599 or something like that. Or and again, the KX2, it's a beautiful radio. I'm just too cheap to buy one.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is it's really expensive. I mean, I bought my 817 new for almost half of what those things were new.
Exactly.
And I think it might even be built better, maybe not, but the front end of it, or I just feel like the interference that I get, or that I don't get, even with the 817, it's just the filtering and the front end and all that. It just feels like it's good, it's solid. And I have a concern when it comes to other radios, the Xiegu, the 5100, and the the 6165, whatever.
6100,
right?
6100 and the 5105. Those both, I've tried those. I don't like they interference gets into them when they don't in the 817, and I've run them side by side, and some of those other radios that, like the one you mentioned, I don't know for sure, but I just kind of have this concern and just kind of this anxiety that they're not going to be built to the specs of a 817.
I think every 817 owner feels that way. I have anxiety when I use other stuff too. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
The Tech Prepper has chimed in. He says, "I'm so glad you're not looking into an IC705. Arizona summits would destroy that rig."
Whether it's the rocks or the heat or what.
So, and on that note, so the SGC 2020 over my shoulder here cost me a quarter of what a 705 would. So, and I'm going to have I don't know that I would have more fun with a 705 than I would be with this one here. And so, and I get labeled as a cheap ham once in a while. I'm not.
What an honor!
You get labeled a what? I didn't catch that. What was that?
He said he gets labeled as a cheap ham, and I'm like, what an honor that is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Nothing wrong with that.
but and the 705 is an awesome radio. I mean, I hear lots of guys on the bands. I work from the home office here, and I have my HF rig running as I'm doing my calls and whatnot. And I hear a lot of guys using 705s with 100-watt amplifiers, which I think is kind of funny, but that's neither here nor there. But there, lots of guys are using it, and they've got it on the desk there, and they got their 100-watt amp hooked up to it, and then they hit the trail, and they've got their 705 in the bag without the amp. So, you know what, I know I'm recognizing it's a great radio, but like Tim mentioned with the Elecraft, boy, that's a steep price point to pay for what you're getting. And there's guys out there, listen, I've heard them. You only live once. You know, buy the best, and you'll be able to get the use out of it. God bless them, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I almost bought a used one, and then I decided not to. But I you know, because I'm like, I have the 817, and I don't think I'm gonna be any happier with this. But yeah.
Look at this comment, Charlie.
I own a FT818 and an IC705. I bought the 818 after the 705, and I hardly touched the 705. Yeah, 75 is a fantastic rig, but I may sell it soon to someone who will use it. There you go.
You know what? So I'm gonna let me follow that one up. Scout 75. Thanks for that comment. That's amazing. Yep. Mike Kilo 8, Mike Romeo Delta. He's had a 705 for some time. Recently, he got himself an 818, and he took it out on a POTA activation. Was like a kid in a candy store when he started making contacts. I think he was tickled silly, the fact that all the contacts he was making. And you know what? So the 817, 818 get a bad rap. It's old technology. It's only 5 watts. It doesn't have this. It doesn't have that. But you know, darn, it just works.
It does. It does. And it sounds good. I think it sounds, I mean, compared to some of the other radios, I just like the sound better too. It doesn't, I don't know. It's just
my thing on the 705 looks like a great radio. I mean, I've never tried one, but my thing is like, I think it's kind of fragile to be taking out, you know, in the field. I mean, if it gets rained on, if it falls off the picnic bench, you know, you're carrying it in a bag. I don't know. It just has that,
I'd be a little concerned about that. Yeah, I've had my 817 in my backpack in torrential rain, and it turns out that the water soaked through, and I was really concerned, but it didn't even affect it. I think it probably would have been a problem with another radio. Yeah.
Right.
Here's Jeff Cowan chiming in. Yaesus just sound good in general. I absolutely have to agree with him here, but you made the comment, Charlie. Man, that audio out of that 817, 818 is awesome. It's just outstanding. That little box putting out big audio. Never a problem hearing it in the field. That's actually, you know, the SGC. I noticed a difference. It's not as defined as the Yaesu in the field.
Yeah.
There's a
comment. Charlie.
Yeah, that one. Yep.
Okay, here we go, Charlie. Rod Murray from up here in Ontario's got a question for you.
He says, what is the best wire resonant antenna setup to use with the 818 without a tuner? Well, that's a, I mean, I can tell you my opinion. Of course, everybody's going to have their own opinion on that, right? I really think we talked about this earlier about the dipole.
Yep.
I've used the dipole for all of for 10 years almost on the 818. Well, it's the 817, and I've tried other antennas, and it seems like it's the best. Again, it depends on your circumstances. You may need to. You're maybe in a situation where you can't deploy a dipole, and a different antenna might just for like the layout of the land, it might be better, like an end-fed half wave. Sure. But I think overall, I've been using the dipole, and I would never, if I had the option, choose anything else other than the dipole, the link dipole.
Yep, yeah. Dipole's my vote.
Tim, Antenna Man, you want to answer that one?
I cannot argue with any of that. If you can put up a dipole, that's what you should use. There's no question about it. A lot of people can't. Now, the key to that question there, though, is I think he used the word resonant, right? So if without a tuner, just plugging into the radio, yes, a dipole. I know somebody who makes a little choke thingy that goes into those little resonant dipoles that can help. Because what I used to do is I used to want to work phone, phone section, and I have my resonant dipole cut right through the middle of the band, and then I would want to swing back and work CW or Digi, right? So you get a pretty big curve on a big band like 40 meters, say, or something like that. So a little one-to-one Balun in there can help smooth some of that out.
Yeah,
Which is a big deal on digital and CW, because you can get by. I mean, if you think you're transmitting 5 watts, you're probably only transmitting 3.5 or something like that.
Yeah, it still works. I've not had a trouble. I've not had a problem with it.
The computer and all that will pick up all those, all of that, right? When you're trying to work phone or SSB on 5 watts, that little bit of help can make a big difference. As for me, 5 watts. 5 watts SSB is no joke. I mean, if the band is open and things are fine, it's a ton of fun. But there's a lot of things have to go right for it to work really, really well. As Tracy, he's the phone SSB phone guy for 5 watts.
Yep. Charlie, you only committed to 1 hour with us. We're at the 1 hour mark. We could continue for a little bit if you're up to it, and if you're not, no problem.
I think we're good. My wife hasn't knocked on the door yet, so we're good.
Hey, your household situation sounds a lot like mine. Okay, let's keep this rolling then. I want to ask you something, Charlie. So, done a lot of hiking up and down hills with radio gear. Have you ever tried a loop antenna?
I have not tried a loop antenna. I have. The Alex loop I've used on a picnic table in a park, and that's as close as I've ever got to a loop antenna. Yeah, I haven't. I know how they work, and I understand the science behind them, and I've seen other people, but I'd like to try it some point. I have one. I just haven't put it together.
Which one do you have?
It's an MFJ loop dipole. It's like got the little MFJ box. I was just given to me, so I'm like gonna try it. You're like, oh no.
Sorry, I'm not a huge MFJ fan over here, for the record.
Well, I mean, you use what you can, right? I'm a cheap ham.
You use what you got. Absolutely.
Okay.
So at some point, I will be using a loop antenna at least once on a summit activation. Once I grab this and put it together, and I'll try it out and see what happens.
Is that like, does it compact down fairly portably?
I don't even know. I think I just have the box, and then you have to put wire with it and figure out how you're gonna mount the wire.
Okay.
And so
the Alex loop breaks down, doesn't it? Isn't it?
Well, that's not an Alex loop. That's a different kind of loop.
Yeah, the Alex loop is a quality loop. It's one of the it's like one of the most expensive on the market.
Yeah.
Like the BMW, but it's designed specifically for portable applications. It's not like the Chameleon, which is built for World War III sort of stuff.
That one I've never used.
I haven't used any of them, so I mean, I take the like I said, the one time it wasn't even mine, but somebody let me use the Alex loop on a picnic table in a park once. That's about it for me.
Okay, so but you think you'd be open to it? Yeah, based upon what you know about them, do you think it could be an effective SOTA antenna?
Absolutely. I mean, you know Adam, right? K6ARK Adam.
Yes.
Yeah, he's used them before. He used a big one before, and it's had good success. So you can have good success with them. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fantastic. You earlier, Charlie, you briefly mentioned field day. Do you do field day? Is that a thing you do every year?
It is. I really, really like field day. It's what got me into ham radio, and it's probably one of my favorite, probably the favorite event that I like for ham radio. We have I know a friend of mine who has property. He has 60 acres right in the middle of a national forest, completely surrounded by national forest. And we worked out a deal with him. We can do field day there on that property every year, and we've been going. Our club has been going there, and it's a good time. We had this last field day. We had I'm gonna say probably 40 or 50 people there, and we go like on Wednesday, Thursday, and then we stay till Sunday. So it's 3-4 day camp out. The thing I like about field day, there's several. One, I think most people would agree with me is the camaraderie and the social aspect. I absolutely love, hanging out with people around the campfire and just talking radio and not even radio, just kind of getting to know people. That's one of the big things. Another one is there's only me and my friend Brian that are active in Morse code right now. There's a couple other guys who do know Morse code, but Brian and I are the only two that do Morse code at Field Day. And so we have our own station and set up, and it's just a time for us to do Morse code and get on the air. I really enjoy that time where we're on the air doing Morse code, just the two of us, and working those numbers to get the numbers up for our club. So those are the two things that I really like about Field Day. Yeah.
So now earlier we were talking about your 897. Is that your Field Day rig?
I haven't taken Brian usually, my friend Brian, W7JET, he's a co-host on my interview channel or on my interview show, but he always brings his radio to, and it's something different every time, but he's always bringing his radio and his antennas and stuff like that. He makes it easy. All I got to do is show up and send him some more sporting copy. So
there you go.
That's why I like it so much.
There you go. That's the way to do it.
Very cool. You know what's interesting is your experience with Field Day is dramatically different from mine, because I tend to do mine solo, and I invite friends who are hams every year. And as soon as, and it's like, yeah, great, we'll come out and give you a hand. And as soon as the threat of precipitation raises its ugly heads, it's like, oh, I got something else to do. Family event came up, and I'm out there by myself schlepping all this stuff. So one of these days, I've sort of promised myself that I'm going to get in with a big group that does Field Day big time. So, I can get the whole experience, including the food. Because when I'm out there by myself, I'm eating freeze-dried meals from my jet foil.
Yeah. You know what? What's interesting about our club, though, is we don't do it big time. And we have a lot of people there, but we're a very casual approach, have a very casual approach to Field Day. And I think we get I don't know, maybe I think we had 400 contacts for the CW, and I think the sideband had not even that many. With all those people, it's because they're all camping and socializing, and then just getting on the air a little bit casually. So it's we're not too serious about it. So
very cool. No, that's nice. What else we got? I just want to pull up a couple of slides from your presentation here. Let me just do this. It's from the presentation that I put together just to show. So everybody on the channel, if you haven't done so while you're watching the stream, open up another tab on your browser, go to Red Summit RF. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe right away. Charlie has an outstanding channel, so please do that. So here we go. Why do most ops use QRP for summits on the air? Charlie, do you want to talk about that one for those who may not be familiar with summits on the air?
Yeah, well, so I think the main reason is when you're looking at hiking and carrying your gear over long distances, you want to bring the size and weight down. And so if you compare, a 100-watt rig with a QRP rig, they're always going to be, as far as I can know, to my knowledge, much smaller and lighter weight. And so that's one of the big reasons. The other is that you don't need all that power when you are on the summit because of the takeoff angle. You can take 100 watts, but you definitely can make enough contacts to enjoy the summit with QRP. You don't have to have all that power. You could, if you do an experiment and you take a radio up on a summit and then you take it into a park, a wooded area, or a place where there's maybe even a valley or whatever, you'll see that there's a big difference in the number of contacts that you can make. You can really get a lot more contacts up there on the summits. It's just the way it is. And so I think those are the main two things: is just the takeoff angle. You don't need that much power, and then also the light weight and the compactness of the radios.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Let's see what else we got here. Backpacking with your ham radio. So do you have some tips for us regarding backpacking with ham radio?
Yeah, the first tip is learn Morse code.
That's a good one. You want to explain that?
Well, yes, because when you are backpacking, it even becomes more critical to lighten your load and have compact gear. And so you want to have a CW rig that is size of a deck of cards. You can have a 5-watt radio size of a deck of cards if you know Morse code. When you start adding in sideband, then they get a little bit bigger than that. Sometimes not too much bigger, but a little bit bigger than that. And so definitely you want to keep your gear as light as possible and as compact as possible. And so that's, I think, the main thing as far as the gear goes. Then when we're talking about backpacking in general, then, you know, those are all the, I mean, a lot of people can give advice about backpacking, but when you combine the two, I think the only thing that I would say is you got to plan out really good what you want to activate, and have contingency plans. So Sandy and I did a backpacking trip in California in the San Jacintos Mountains, and we planned on going up and doing a Summits on the Air activation on this summit, and we almost didn't make it because we got there and there was no water anywhere. And so we kept going and going up the trail further and further, couldn't find water, and we came to the point where we may have to turn around and go back to the truck. But we pushed on and found this location that had water, so we set up our camp, and then our plan was not to push it too hard. So the next day we went and did the SOTA activation, came back down and camped another day. I would say that most of the time, if you're old like me, you want to plan on more than just an overnighter. You want a couple of nights to get some of those summits when you're backpacking in. Just take it easy, and I mean, I don't know. It's kind of in my mind, I'm thinking about, there's really a clear demarcation in my mind between advice that you would give for backpacking and advice that you would give for portable radio, and they're really compartmentalized, and you just combine the two. It's really that simple. If you've been backpacking, then you don't need, I mean, if you know all the things there are about backpacking, then I don't need to give you any more advice, because backpacking is backpacking. And the same goes for portable radio. It's just kind of like these two compartments, and then you just combine them.
On that note, you know, so I do see, you know, there's it's hard to miss it, you know, newer people being drawn to the hobby, and Gaston, the tech prepper, is a sign of that, and he's helping encourage that. A lot of folks who are sort of getting into radio, not for radio's sake, but to supplement their emergency preparedness, their SHTF. You know, so when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking, okay, so we've got these people who are coming into our hobby, and they know bits and pieces about this. Do you think that's had an impact on summits on the air?
Yes, I think it has to some extent. I think that, well, when you mentioned that whole, when you talked about that whole, you prefaced that question, I was thinking about the fact that when you get involved in radio communication, you really need to spend time exploring different areas. And as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, yeah, there are a lot of people getting in the hobby, and then they just kind of stay in one niche. And you know, could be like VHF, you know, they get the VHF radio and then they check into the repeater, and that's it. And you know, that would help in one situation, but we don't know what situation is going to happen, if it does happen, where you would need communication. Maybe you would need an HF, maybe you would need digital, maybe you would need to know how to fix an antenna. So I would say that that there are a lot of people that are getting into summits on the air, but they're also getting into parks on the air, and they're getting into just portable radio. And I think that's a good thing, because we all need to continue to grow and learn more communication skills. And I hope that the young people, I see most people doing that, but there's some that just get kind of stuck in an area, and I don't think that's really good for the hobby or good for the person.
So thank you for going down that road, because I think that raises an excellent point. How would you encourage those people? Okay, so they got their feet wet, maybe they got their license, they're starting out with their basic communication skills. How if you had to give them some advice, what general advice would you give them?
Well, generally speaking, you're not going to get everybody to participate in summits on the air or digital or Morse code, because we all have such diverse interests. The great thing about our hobby is that there's something there for pretty much everybody. And so the first piece of advice is get involved, get your license, get going, and then start experimenting a little bit in different areas and find what you like. Find the area that you like, and then take that further and go down that path. But that's not always going to be the case. There's people who I have come along with me on my activations. I invite them along, or they ask to come along, and I also have the YouTube channel. These are two ways in which I try to encourage people to get involved in Summits on the Air. One is if I find somebody who feels like they have an interest in getting outdoors and using radio, doing portable radio, I'll invite them along to come with me. Having the experience itself helps generate more interest and helps them want to participate more, and especially if they have success. So if they're along with me, they see what I'm doing, they see the equipment that I have, then there's a lot of questions that are answered. Even let them participate a little bit, make a few contacts, then they get excited, then they want to do it. So I like to have people come along and do the stuff with me. The other thing is I like the videos. I like putting up stuff on my YouTube channel. That's primarily why I did it, was to help people see how incredibly fun and beautiful the outdoors is, and how fun it is to mix that with ham radio.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, one more question I've got for you is, so you're heading up the summit. What do you put in your pack? Maybe that people might not think about. We know you got a rig. We know you got an antenna, some coax cable. You got a battery. You got a power cord. You got a microphone or a key. What else goes in your pack that people might not be thinking of that you would tell them it's a good idea to have there?
Okay, well, it depends on where I'm going. But one thing I always take with me, not in my pack, but I'll get to that. But whenever I go on an activation, I have a duffel bag. And in that duffel bag is all the gear I need for rain, cold, warm, dusty, rocky, whatever the circumstances. I've got all kinds of different things in this duffel bag. It stays with my, every time I go on an activation, it goes in my truck. And almost always, I almost never use it. But there have been occasions where it's been raining and there was no rain in the forecast, and so I've grabbed a rain jacket out, or where there's I damaged my pants. Well, there's some sweatpants in there, so I can put those on. So I'm just saying that be prepared in that way. But some of the things that I throw in my pack when I'm here locally in the desert Phoenix area is a head net and to put over the top of my head, and that is for the Africanized bees. Because when you go to the top of summits, some places, many of the summits here in the Phoenix metro area have beehives that you don't know are there, and usually when you encounter an Africanized bee, they'll start bumping onto you, and you'll be fine. You'll know to get away. Sometimes if they get very angry, they'll attack you, and where they attack you is your mouth, nose, and ears and eyes. Jeez. And so if you're and the way to get away from an Africanized bee is not to swat or bat them away, but to run, to move as quickly as possible away from that area. Well, if you're getting bees in your mouth, nose, eyes, and ears, how are you going to know where to go? There was a person here in Phoenix a couple of years ago who was on top of a kind of a knife edge ridge hiking and got attacked by Africanized bees. He started running. He fell to his death because he couldn't see what he was doing, and he was so distraught. So I use the net to put, I haven't had to use it yet, but I have it in my pack to put over the top of my head to protect me so that I can navigate and get out of that situation if I have to. I hope I never have to use it, though.
Yeah. These are not on my ham radio bingo card. I'm sorry.
yeah, not on my bucket list, that's for sure.
No.
On that note, Charlie, I've seen some of your videos, and you're sitting there on the rock on the top of the hill. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, he's in Arizona, tarantulas, scorpions. You're not concerned about that.
Not as much as some people. Maybe I'm dumb, but
all over the place. They're under every rock.
Well, maybe. I'll just say this.
I'll say this: full of spiders and snakes.
Tim, there's in the about 10 years that I've been out doing summits on the air, I see a rattlesnake about every other year, and when I encountered that, it's almost always, except with one exception, far away rattling. So it's not. I don't really am too concerned about that. I've only seen in the wild one scorpion on the trail ever, and maybe through 2 or 3 tarantulas. And so I don't encounter them that much. I've never seen a bear in the wild when I've been doing summits on the air. It's just, this doesn't happen that much. So anyway, back to what was in my pack. That's the head net's one. The next thing is going to be an SOS Garmin GPS type alert system to help you to get out of any trouble if you fall, break your leg or something. That I have in there. I just actually got a messenger. I sold my GPS 66i. It's a GPS unit, and now I just have a little square thing. It's called a messenger. It interfaces with the phone, and you can still communicate via satellite. You go from the phone into that, and then satellite communication. And
sorry, can I just ask you a clarifying question on that one,
Yeah.
Charlie?
Yeah.
There's a subscription fee to that, isn't there?
There is. I think it's $15 a month.
That's extremely reasonable, right? I mean, you'd gladly pay it if you were suffering somewhere out there.
Yeah. And that's the low one, and that allows you to have as many texts as you want, I think, or at least enough that would be reasonable. And then, of course, if you can want to hit that SOS button, you're in good shape. Hey, look, Mike just gave you a donation.
Thank you, Mike.
Hey, that's like the first ever super chat, I think.
Yeah,
right?
It is. It is.
You guys will all be getting a check for $2.50.
US?
Well, I imagine that's US dollars.
It is US, yeah. One more thing I'll mention in my pack that maybe you don't know about, and that is a lightning indicator. A little thing that tells you whether lightning is close and whether, so I know to get off the mountain, because sometimes you don't see or hear lightning, but it's nearby. So it's a lightning indicator. So I think those are 3 things that I could say is in my pack that I grabbed that I usually have with me that maybe some people may not be aware of.
Now, a lightning indicator. I've never seen one of these.
Let me grab it. Hold on just a sec.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Hey, giving you guys a heads up. Looks like my laptop's got 3% left in it. So if I disappear, I'll work my way back through my iPad.
Plug it in.
Well, I left the power supply upstairs. So
Oh,
Your pack next time.
take a hike. We'll catch up with you on the way back. Oh, look at that.
That's the net, the hair net, or the head net.
Okay, yep. And that just goes. You would wear that over a wide-brimmed hat, right,
Yep.
Charlie?
Yep. And then here's the
If it goes off, you're dead. Right?
GPS messenger.
Yeah.
And so you just, there's a little button right here for SOS.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the third thing is right here. So this is the lightning detector. And so if I turn it on,
Look at that.
then it starts searching for lightning. So please, it says please wait.
So what does that
Ready.
do exactly? Does it just like detect buildup of charge in the air or something? Or
I'm not exactly sure how it works. I just know it works. Whenever there's lightning nearby, this red light comes on and it beeps at me. So I think so. I think that, it just kind of detects this. Well, I don't know. I couldn't speak to it. All I know is I carry it and it works.
Is lightning, like I'm thinking Arizona, I'm thinking the desert. I never thought lightning would be an issue there, but it is.
It's a big issue because in the summer we have, in the late summer we have monsoon, which is I don't know if you know what monsoon is, but basically it's where the humidity reaches a certain point, and then the temperature reaches a certain point, and when you get those two mixed, then storms come, and those storms are lightning storms, and they are very powerful. And I've been on summits where it's been clear sky, and then all of a sudden just these clouds just start forming, and then lightning.
Jeez.
I want to find out the hard way.
So if you're on top of a summit with an antenna in the air and there's going to be lightning, it's not a good match.
No, absolutely not. You see that, Chris? Scout 75. Nice segue by Chris when discussing preparedness.
Right. I don't have my power supply with me. I failed. But I got the backup. I have a backup device. So to have two is to have one.
Okay, well, gentlemen, let's. Why don't we just do a final once around here and see if anybody's got any final parting shots before we close this thing down. Chris?
Actually, I saw that comment come through from was it Mobile Tech? Something new You've heard about it? Yeah, it's kind of new to Parks on the Air. So, wow, Parks on the Air in 15 seconds or less, right? On-air activity where you can go out to basically a state park, set up a simple radio station and make contacts. If you make 10 contacts, you've activated the park. You register with the Parks on the Air website and get an account there, and you upload your log, and they just keep track of everything. When you activate 10 parks, you get an award. When you activate 20, you get another one. And when you're a hunter and you contact those parks, you get awards for those. So it's a great activity, and the guys that run it do a great job with it. So.
If I remember right, didn't the ARL do a thing in like 2017?
That's where it started. Yeah, it was the National Parks on the Air.
It kind of came from there, right?
Yeah, it started from National Parks in the Air, and then then it went so well. It was received so well that these bunch of guys got together and kept.
Yeah, it's a private thing.
All volunteer. It's all volunteer.
Yeah.
They do an outstanding job. So anyway, so back to what we're doing here. So I had a great time, Charlie. It was great to meet you here and hear all about SOTA. Man, that takes a lot of nerve to climb a hill. I don't see me doing it, but
it takes great physical conditioning, is what I'm thinking.
Exactly right.
Now, if you go mechanized,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to do it.
There you go. Do it, man.
Yeah.
Tim, what you got for us?
I had a
as we
great time.
close this out?
I had a great time. This is a lot of fun.
Good stuff. Charlie, any final thoughts you want to give to the crowd before we pull the plug on this one?
The only thing first of all, I just say thanks to the three of you, Tracy, Chris, and Tim, for having me on. It was really a lot of fun to get to know you and to chat with you a little bit. And then I hope that those of you who are in chat, who are my regular viewers and subscribers, will give Tracy and Chris a follow on their channels as well. And just thanks, get out there and just have fun and explore, I guess, is my advice to everybody and my last closing thoughts.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Charlie. It was a pleasure having you. A great conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. To everybody watching, either live or after the event, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. And looking forward to doing another one next month. Charlie, if you want to hang on, we'll debrief afterwards. But until then, 7-3 all.
Like and subscribe, Tracy.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just before I go, though, Chris, Kilo 2, Charlie Juliet Bravo Radio. Go over to his channel and subscribe to that. Tim, November 9, Sierra Alpha Bravo, N9SAB antennas on eBay. Be sure to check that out. And, of course, Charlie, Red Summit RF YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed there, you got to get over and do it. He's got an awesome channel. Take care, folks.
Good night.